Good day, everybody. Welcome to the Bible in a Year 2021. This is day 237, and we are going to start looking at Lamentations. Lamentations is, well, I guess it wouldn't surprise us that it came from Jeremiah. You remember Jeremiah's heart, right? He, for the first part of his role as a prophet, he was actually petitioning the Lord. He would go and prophesy about things, and then he'd come back and petition the Lord, don't let this happen. And he'd cry out on Israel's behalf. And so many times the Lord told him, stop doing this. Stop it. This is the judgment that I'm bringing. But his heart was absolutely broken with what ended up happening. And this is a man who's being abused by his own people. He's being beat up. He's being thrown in jail. He's been thrown in cisterns and everything else. But what was happening, what they had brought themselves to, he never blamed the Lord, but whatever they had brought themselves to, it just broke Jeremiah's heart. So this is his lamentation. This is him expressing that sorrow. And we see this in verse 1 of chapter 1. Oh no, she sits alone. The city that was once full of people, once great among nations, she has become like a widow. Once a queen over provinces, she has become a slave. And you just feel that broken heart there. In verse 8, he acknowledges it's all their own fault. Jerusalem has sinned greatly. Therefore, she becomes a joke. All who honored her now detest her, for they've seen her naked. Even she groans and turns away. But there's Jeremiah is suffering to the bone because of everything that's going on. Her uncleanness shows on her clothing. She didn't consider what would happen to her. She's gone down shockingly. She has no comforter. Look at my suffering. The enemy has definitely triumphed. The thing that really got me as I was reading through Lamentations is this our heart? Do we have the same kind of heart for those that we've been sent to minister? Does our heart break when we see them going through what they're going through? Does our heart break when we see the consequences of their rebellion and the rejection of God playing out in their lives? Or do we have more of an attitude, well, it serves you right, or I warned you, or any number of things that we could say? Or are we cut right to our heart when it happens? Because that's Jeremiah. That's how Jeremiah was. Because of all these things, I'm crying. My own eyes pour water, because a comforter who might encourage me is nowhere near. My children are destroyed because the enemy was so strong. Verse 20, those emotions become, you know what it's like, right? Stress and depression and all those negative things. It's real. It's real, and it plays out in our physical bodies. And so we have, pay attention, Lord, for I'm in trouble. My stomach is churning. My heart is pounding inside me because I am so bitter. In the streets, the sword kills. In the house, it is like death. Then in chapter 2, in verse 3, we have it. In his burning rage, he cut off each of Israel's horns right in front of the enemy. He withdrew his strong hand. He burned against Jacob like a flaming fire that ate up everything nearby. And Jeremiah knew without a doubt that the only reason that Judah had survived as long as she had survived was because of the Lord, because he was with her, because he held back the worst of the enemy. But now he's withdrawn his hand, and it just hurts Jeremiah. And then we sense the various loss that he experienced in verse 5. My Lord has become like an enemy. He devoured Israel. He devoured all her palaces. He made ruins of her city walls. In daughter Judah, he multiplied mourning along with more mournings. And verse 7, the altar is gone. My Lord rejected his altar. He abandoned his sanctuary. He handed Zion's palace walls over to enemies. They shouted in the Lord's own house as if it were a festival day. And in verse 14, it's just stated, Jeremiah, who was called from the Lord, who paid the price for that calling, especially in the age that he was in. And then he saw those who called themselves prophets and the damage that they did. Remember, he's the one who was telling them to surrender. And if they surrendered, it would go well for them. And then the prophets were coming in and say, oh, no, the enemy can't break through these walls. So your prophets gave you worthless and empty visions. They didn't reveal your sin so as to prevent your captivity. Instead, they showed you worthless and incorrect prophecies. Yeah, because sometimes things have to be exposed. The poison has to be exposed before healing can be brought in. In verse 17, and when the Lord gives his word, he keeps it. If he says that if you enter into rebellion, this is going to happen. If he says that if you walk in faithfulness, this is going to happen. He's true to his word in either case. In verse 17, the Lord did what he had planned. He accomplished the word that he had commanded long ago. He ripped down, showing no compassion. He made the enemy rejoice over you. He raised up your adversary's horn. And remember, the prophets have been speaking this word for a very long time, generation after generation. And the Lord was very patient with them. And in verse 22, this is just inexpressible loss. You invited, as if to a festival, terrors from every side. On the day of the Lord's anger, no one escaped. Not one survived. The children that I nurtured, that I raised myself, my enemy finished them off. Yeah. Lamentations is a great joy to read, right? Yeah, but the whole thing that challenged me on this was, where is my heart? Is my heart breaking over those who are rebellious and lost? Is my heart breaking for what they are suffering, even if it's their own fault? Am I like Jeremiah? Am I petitioning for them, or am I praying for the fires of heaven to fall down upon them, like the disciples had wanted to do? Yeah. Pause for reflection, right? So you guys be blessed today. Be encouraged. Let's consider what the Lord is doing, and let's join him in it, shall we? You guys be blessed, and thanks for being on this journey. We'll catch up with each other again tomorrow.